Hello, welcome to Let's Talk Business, where Square business owners share their stories, biggest things they learned, and where they're going. I am Elon Peso, Square small business evangelist and former business owner. And today we're talking to Ryan Wanner, owner of Golden Pine Coffee Roasters in Black Forest, Colorado. Thank you so much for joining us, Ryan. I'm so excited to chat with you and to get to share your story.
It's a pleasure to be here, Alan. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Thank you. And with that, let's talk business. First, can you give us a quick introduction?
Sure. I'm Ryan. I run Golden Pine Coffee Roasters out here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Started originally back with a slightly different business, R&R Coffee Cafe. We opened that up in 2008. Ran that for a little over 15 years and ended up running into some challenges with the landlord and got forced to close that one up. So decided to take the coffee roasting side of that and spin it off onto its own thing. I've been with Square since 2011. Used pretty much every product that would be justifiably used in a coffee cafe kind of concept setting. From regular point of sale all the way through the online store, invoicing, the whole 9 yards. So, yeah.
Awesome. I love it. That's been a huge journey for you. We'll dive into all the details of those transitions. I'd love to hear first, what led you to start the business, to start R&R?
Well, way back in my college days, I helped a friend open a coffee shop. And we were using the Illy espresso at the time. It's a wonderful Italian espresso. And it just so happened when that shop got its initial load in from the distributor, there was a rep from Italy visiting the distributor. The rep came up, gave us all formal Italian barista training, and I knew I was hooked on the coffee world right then and there. Made it a point that I wanted to be in my own shop, and it took about 15 years or so to get it up and running.
Wow. So what was that initial process like of getting your own place up?
Mostly just working through the ranks. Tried to focus my entire employment history on the coffee side of things. That I've been in food service. My first job was washing dishes. So I've been in food service pretty much my entire life. And so I just started focusing on coffee. The last place that I was a manager at was a little coffee shop up in the area right where R&R used to be, and fell in love with the community, fell in love with really roasting the coffee because that was their focus there, and just made a lot of great connections when I was there. When that place closed up because of being a victim of location more than anything else, I kept roasting. I bought all the roasting equipment off of them and I kept playing around with it. And about a little under a year later, the other coffee shop in the area decided they wanted to sell. My phone blew up. Everybody wanted me to get back up there and made them an offer, and away we went.
That's huge, of getting to turn that passion and all of your experience into your own thing, and that opportunity just lining up like that. That's fantastic. Yeah. Similar how my shop opened up, of taking over an existing that was going out. And yeah, that's such a great way to do it. With that, let's dive into this current chapter and set of challenges you're going through of this location and challenges with the landlord. I'd love to hear all about that.
Of course. Well, with the R&R, back in the end of 2021, the owner of the property decided to sell. So brought new owners in. New owners kicked in first part of January of 22, and it promptly canceled everybody's leases. And so we went immediately month to month because he was, I want to rewrite leases. We want to work with you. We want to make all this happen, yada, yada, yada. And I said, all right, fine. Don't be mean to me. That's all I ask. And we just kind of limped along, and no problem at all. Where I was at in relation to Colorado Springs, we were really way out on the outskirts. There's a beautiful treed area north of Colorado Springs. It's definitely more of a rural environment than being right in the heart of the city. Being so, volume definitely gets dictated by weather, And, clientele, it's a limited clientele. And, a lot of people in Colorado Springs still have the mentality, oh, I don't want to drive all that way. And so it really limits the market. Because of that, I knew I wanted to do some expansion on the space, and do more item expansion, add a liquor license, add evening service, possibly put a little drive up on the property because we were in a standalone building, bunch of different things just to keep revenue going because January and February are horrible months up there. Obviously that's a pretty pricey investment and not something that I wanted to do without a lease in place. So was working with him on it, trying to figure out how to make the lease. We kind of did this half-hearted attempt. Didn't really go anywhere. You can't do a commercial lease on 2 pages. It's just not going to work. And then in April of last year, there was a major utility issue on the property. And it was between the utility connection to the property and the building. So it's completely on the landlord. Landlord had no idea what to do. And we ended up being closed for 17 days while they figured out what they could do to fix it. And that became the writing on the wall for me, honestly, because he's still hemming and hawing on a lease. I had no way to go back at him because technically we weren't on a lease, even though he's leaning on me for being on a lease, which I'm not. And it was just a big mess. And it basically came down to, look, I need a lease or I need to go. And brought a commercial real estate broker in. She wrote a lease for him. He ignored her. He continued to ignore me. And finally, I just gave him 30 days. It's like, I can't justify this. I'm going into the weakest part because we ended up closing up in September. It's like, I'm going to have to going into the weakest part of the year with not a lot going on right now because I'm still playing catch up from the 17 days that we were closed. And I will say that was one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make in my life because that was my baby. That was 15 years of blood, sweat, tears, and everything else going into that building. And so that took almost 3 weeks of me just basically sitting there staring in the mirror going, is this the right idea? And the Black Forest community isn't happy at all. They make it very clear that the company that ended up going into that space after we left, which oddly enough had the keys to the space 20 minutes after I turned them in, but we'll leave the conspiracy theorists to have fun with that one. They flat out refuse to support them. So I don't know what's going to happen with that property. I don't know what's going to happen with that space, but in all honesty, I really don't care. I finally hit that point where I'm like, all right, next, let's make it happen.
Wow.
So through the time that I was at R&R, obviously the roasting was where I was really trying to focus a lot of my attention, especially near the end there. And I decided it was time just to move the roastery out into its own thing. I always loved coffee. That's the reason I got into it. R&R turned into a lot more of a restaurant that had great coffee more than a roastery that had good food, only because it's what the community needed at that time. One thing I very quickly learned in business is you do what the location is asking you to do. And so had to build the whole food menu, but now there's obviously a restaurant in the space that we were in, so I don't need to worry about the food. So let me get back to focusing on coffee. Nice thing is my overhead is coming way down because of it. Labor dollar it's me and 1 5-hour-a-week employee versus 7 to 10 employees that I had at the store. Just everything is shrinking down. And I think in the grand scheme of things, I think it's going to end up being a little bit more profitable for me than what I was trying to do with all the balls in the air with the full restaurant and bakery and roastery.
Yeah, that's huge. And like you said, going back to what you're passionate about and what started all this off was the roasting and was the coffee. And you went through all these challenges because that was the situation. And now you're able to take control a little bit through a situation that you were completely out of control of, but you got there. I'd love to go back a second to that decision. You said it's the hardest decision that you had to make, and I completely get that and believe that. It's like you said, it's your baby. It's something that you started. How did you actually make that decision to walk away from it? Like what was the deciding factor? What was the conversation you had through your mind? What was the thing that weighed and said, no, I need to walk away?
Well, first was the utility issue. That pretty much pointed me in that direction. And whether I wanted to admit it back then or not, I think I knew what the answer was going to be at the end of it. And then it was just a zero communication. Just absolutely no communication from him. And, he started being grumbly about this or grumbly about that, and all stuff that we were perfectly fine working with until I started leaning on him. And I'm sitting here going, well, first and foremost, I'm in a position where I only have to give a 30-day notice and technically I didn't even need to do that because there apparently was no lease. So I could have technically just turned around and walked right away from the space, but I wasn't willing to do that for my business sake, the community's sake, or honestly, even for his sake. Even in the middle of all this, I still have to think of this as a business first and foremost. And then just the continued lack of communication. And, and more and more yelling into the void. And I'm going, okay, so we do decide on a lease. Is this going to be a thing where any issue I have with the property is going to turn into the same void yelling? Is it going to be something to where he holds it over my head? Well, you forced me into this lease, so here we go. Now we got to do this, and that's not what I wanted to do. And I was just looking at it going, I can just see this becoming more and more and more of a problem. And with Colorado state laws, liquor licenses are tied to the space, not the person applying for it. So all of a sudden that becomes a whole new level of stupidity if we decide to head out or anything like that. And it's just at that point, 15 years of chasing my tail, especially the last year and a half of fighting him. And I'm just, all right, I have to make that decision. I don't want to, but I have to.
Yeah, it definitely, it seemed like you didn't fully have a choice there. It would either be continue in a really difficult situation or ease the stress and try something new, despite how hard that is and despite the pain of walking away.
Right.
That's tough. Now, you said you're shifting over to the roasting and focusing on that. What does the business look like in this iteration? Like what did you do? What are you doing? What is your business now?
Well, primarily the coffee roasting. What I'm trying to do right now is I have a lease signed. I'm in negotiations with the various health department and all the authorities needed to open the commercial space, which obviously anybody that's been there is wincing in terror right now. And you know exactly what I'm going through. It's we'll get back to you tomorrow, 2 weeks ago thing. And so kind of the focus on that will be is somewhere for my big coffee roaster. I just basically need production space at this point. I already have been signed up with a few farmers markets in the area to do a little pop-up. I have a little portable coffee roaster. I do little pop-ups. I roast on site. I sell coffee. It's a lot of fun. I could just sit there and talk coffee all day, and everybody who knows me tells me I could do that too much as it is. So just pop up and do little farmers markets, do a couple of coffee bar pop-ups here and there. The roastery space, once we're through all the agency's approvals, has space to do a small coffee bar. The space that I found is actually about a mile away from the old R&R. So I'm still right there in the heart of the Black Forest community, which is where my heart is. It's where I really wanted to be. And so I've already got tremendous community support. Since I posted the picture of the key on social media, it went nuts. Just absolutely all the cheers and hoorays and everything like that. So I think it'll be good. I just got to get through the regulatory hoops to get there.
For sure. Now, so you're focusing on the roasting and opening up a roastery with a little coffee bar there as well. How are you selling the coffee that you're roasting? Like, where are you selling to? How are you leveraging the experience that you've had from the cafe into this new venture?
There are currently 3 locations in the Black Forest area that are selling my bags of coffee. I keep them restocked on a relatively regular basis. I have a couple spaces in the downtown Colorado Springs area that sell the bags, working on getting some more. Again, I'm really limited on the fact that I'm on that little portable roaster right now, so I'm hesitant to get a lot of wholesale accounts going again. And then at the various farmers markets, there's a year-round market I'm in every Sunday here, and then getting signed up for the 3 other ones for the summertime to really just start moving that coffee around.
That's huge. Yeah, that's really smart to sort of know your limits from that perspective. Like you only have that small roaster, so you can't really just keep going and keep going. You need to work with what you have. Once you are set up in the roastery, like what's your plan there on, what's next?
Next for me, obviously, with the bigger roaster means that I have a way to get more business-to-business accounts. I can get more of my coffees on the shelves. Got some leads for some supermarkets, things like that. See if I can pan those out. I really want to get into more of a kind of do some more of the YouTube tutorials and talks. And basically kind of my whole mental state on this is you can go get the can from the grocery store and have coffee, or you can go and spend $45-50 for that fancy dancy bag at the high-end specialty coffee roastery. Cool. But what about these people right in the middle? You don't want that. You don't want that. You want something that's good, but isn't going to break the budget. And so that's kind of what I'm aiming for, and just talking up why this is important. The whole, if I keep it in the roaster for 5 minutes longer, what's it going to do to the taste? And actually give people the opportunity to sample those along with me via YouTube videos, things like that. Just keep pushing on, bring out the inner coffee snob in all of us is kind of how I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, I love that. Education, that like direct to customer or whoever your customer could be business customers or consumer customers, that education and showing your expertise and showing your knowledge is huge. That's really exciting. Are you planning on still continuing like B2C, direct to consumer through that outside of just the little coffee bar, or are you really focusing on B2B and wholesale?
Mostly, honestly, both. In Colorado Springs Metro, last time I counted, there were 22 different coffee roasters in a 700,000 population. So we're kind of skewed heavy on that. So I know I'm not going to do a lot of business to business out here. The Black Forest market will support the coffee bar, no problem at all there. Just looking at my sales history from a Black Forest farmers market I had on Saturday to the downtown farmers market I had on Sunday, and the difference is kind of eye-opening in a good way for the Black Forest area. And so I know that I'll have that kind of volume up there, and people will keep begging me to get that coffee bar back open because they're jonesing for their morning cuppa on the way out of the trees. So I think it's going to be a good mix of the two.
Cool. Yeah. Are you doing more wholesale and B2B, or are you planning to than what you did before?
Definitely. Because before it was I could do things with the restaurant, and I could sell pre-done cinnamon rolls to coffee bars and things like that. Obviously, that's not an option for me anymore. So I know I need to bring in a little bit more on the coffee side. Again, I don't think I'm going to land any new coffee shop account just because it seems like everybody's opening a roastery here in town right now, not just straight coffee shops. Which great, I have no problem with that. I think that's wonderful. But it does limit what I can do, especially not being in the heart of town. So that's why I do want to focus more on the consumer side of things, just for let's show you what we can do with this coffee. It doesn't have to just be your morning wake up juice kind of thing. And just really focus on the consumer side, especially with the farmers markets, but definitely have a pretty robust business to business side going as well.
Huge. Yeah, I like that balance. And it's also protecting yourself in case something happens. You have a little bit of everything. Diversifying is huge. How are you feeling about all of this? Like I said, and like you said, this is a really big change, and it's hard to have to make pivots like this. Are you feeling optimistic? Are you feeling hopeful, full of dread, somewhere in between? Where are you at?
Well, I'd be lying if I didn't say there was some kind of fear about what's next. I know that. If you would have asked me this question 4 months ago, it would have been a completely different answer, because I know I had the absolute another body blow of losing everything that I built my life to do. And it took me a couple months to recover from that. I won't lie. Now it's, I'm chomping at the bit. I want to get it going again. This is fun. This is cool. I've been researching new coffees to bring in. I'm like, oh, this would be great, but I don't want to do it on the little portable guy. I want to do it on my big guy that I really know and really know how to tweak and hone blends and roast levels and everything like that. So it's just, let me do this, please. I want to go. And so I'm pretty sure the health department's mad at me because I've been emailing them daily. What's the status? What's the status? What's the status? But got to do the squeaky wheel thing. Just as long as I don't make them to the point where they're like, yeah, no, go away. So
yeah, I don't think they're allowed to do that, luckily. So,
you haven't been El Paso County Health.
That's fair. Well, I'm rooting for you. That's really great to hear that you've come out of that stage and are excited again, because that's so important, is to have that passion again that you started with about this and to have that excitement. It's really easy to get disenchanted with these big changes that are out of your control and to just want to give up. And that's huge. Just another like 1 or 2 questions here. Like what pulled you through that? What pulled you out of that hole and got you into this excited stage and phase?
Through all of it, I was still in farmers markets once a week. Very low volume markets, especially once the season wrapped up. I was down to, one Sunday a day, and what I do in a month of sales in that market barely touches what I used to do in a day of sales at the restaurant. So definitely lower volume, but it was still the get out there, talk with people, do the whole little, okay, I'm good, I'm fine, I promise thing. But just chatting it up and watching people's reactions when they tried the coffee, when they tried my product. And that whole, wait, it's not crap. Well, how did you do this? I was like, this is what I am put on this earth to do. And I wanted to keep going with it, and just getting that, even if it was really minor, just every now and then, but it was still that I just changed somebody's perception of this. Okay, maybe this is still worth going on. And then, that was on Sunday, and then it just started fading through the week, and then Sunday came again, and just bounced me about, around about. But eventually it came down to, I found a space, having that Facebook post about the key and seeing how much the community just grabbed a hold of the fact that I was coming back. Just, yeah, it turned me around a lot. And it's reminded me of why I got into this in the first place.
Totally. Yeah, that's so huge. And I'm so great that you didn't just leave and completely give up and kept fighting for it and kept going out there to the farmers markets. I'm sure that wasn't easy to get out there and put on that customer service mask and keep going. But yeah, like you said, it's those ups and downs, and hopefully one down is a little higher than the next down, and you keep just going up and going up, and that motivation of making someone's day and giving someone a good experience. It's a big driver. That's huge. I absolutely love that. Anything else you want to share about things you've learned along the way? Yeah. And anything else that folks would want to hear?
It's this time where I wish I had that great insight to anybody who is leasing a space from a landlord of make sure, you got these bases covered, make sure you got attorneys looking at the lease agreements and everything like that. But then when something would happen to me, there's absolutely no way that I could, I had it planned. Yeah. The what if. I definitely recommend having that what if binder floating around somewhere. That's for sure. take it from somebody who lived through a massive forest fire less than a mile away from the store back in 2013. You need the what if binder. But I can't say, make sure there isn't a sign. And, probably somebody somewhere will say, well, what he did was illegal, or maybe it was. Is it worth that fight? Is it worth potentially dragging your business's name through the mud when all of a sudden somebody somewhere gets a hold of it and it shows up on the news and these two are in this big old fight, and it's just not going to end well. And you do have to draw that line of, okay, yeah, I'm going to take it in the shorts for this, but in the grand scheme of things, there's a better way to go. And so just, that's the way it rolls, unfortunately. But yeah, I think if anything, the biggest takeaway I would have is make sure you have that what if binder just floating around. I mean, for something as simple as, the car hit the power pole out front, we're going to be out of power for the next 3 days. Okay, what do we do? All the way down to, wow, the landlord just pulled the lease right out from under me. What's next?
Yeah, and that's a hard thing to do, because when everything is hard, you want to think about the good, but you're right. It's so important to have backup plans and to have contingency plans, and because there's so many things that can happen with anything, like you said, from power going out for a couple hours to a pandemic to losing the building to anything else, and being able to pivot, being able to use what you have and what you've learned to change and to keep going. Like, you immediately jumped into farmers markets and you were able to continue roasting for your wholesale accounts like that. Knowing what you can do at any moment is so important. And that's a really, really good perspective.
And the other one, believe in yourself. There were so many times where, just watching the stuff rain down on me, and I'm like, is this me? Should I be here? And you still got to look for the glimmers. Like I said, the look of shock when somebody tries a cup of coffee from me. Those little things, just, okay, maybe I am doing this right. So, yeah, just believe in yourself, but know what to do when everything falls apart.
Huge. Wonderful. Well, I believe in you as well.
Thank you.
This was amazing. We're all here rooting for you and hope that everything goes smoothly from now on and no more issues. And yeah, keep us updated, and love to hear the next step. Thank you again so much for joining us and sharing your experiences. Do you want to plug anything? Where can folks find you or hear more about you? And
roastery website is gpr.coffee. Redirects wonderfully over to a Square online store there. I do shipping in the U.S., no problem at all. Local deliveries within a 50-mile radius of my roastery, I hand deliver to your front door every Friday. So yeah, just got to have fun with it.
Love it. Amazing. Thank you so much again, and we'll see you in the community. Thank you.
Definitely.